Arthas is a little weird because he isn't what I would call a tank by this game's standards, mostly because he's so aggressive. Granted, because he's so aggressive, it helps him become a target, so he becomes more of a tank. But otherwise, he's conditionally very strong because of his often crowd control in the form of slows and roots. He's highly self-sustaining and can lane to mild effectiveness if he needs to, so he makes for a great off-tank if nothing else. Arthas' trait is a solid basic attack enhancement, and it also restores mana for him on hit. This is a very boring and very generically good ability, especially for free. Giving a tank this much lane sustain is a risky call because if the healer doesn't have to stick on them at all times, it becomes easy to hold an XP lead. It's also an alright damage spike because it's an animation cancel on top of the bonus damage dealt. Eternal Hunger is an infinite damage increase on his trait attack and is sometimes worth taking. Frostmourne Feeds is a great talent for sustaining, but has some tough competition depending on what Arthas' team needs. Moving on to his Q, it's also pretty boring, but useful for sustain for the only other resource in this game, health. He can choose to deal a small amount of damage to a target enemy hero, or he can target himself to heal a mild amount of health instantly. It's not so bad, but it's the only one of his basic abilities that doesn't have crowd control attached to it, so it doesn't help his team, but it does help him tank, which kinda helps his team, so I guess it's fine. Immortal Coil is pretty good since it's a guaranteed heal even if it needs to be used for damage, and Embrace Death synergizes with it well to really help with the heavy sustain identity of this character. Arthas' W is a ranged skill shot that roots opponents in a small AoE when it reaches its destination. It's his only hard crowd control ability, but it's not one that's bad at all since it can lock down an important target with its long cast range. It's a consistent ability that's far from bad for a tank to have, but it does rely a little on teammates, like most tanks. This ability has only a couple talents, but the level 1 quest, Frost Presence, makes it even more reliable because the trail to the destination comes out faster than the endpoint circle. Arthas' E is a toggle ability that deals damage and slows both attack and movement speeds in a small-ish AoE around him. Obviously, the goal with it active is to stand directly on top of basic attacking carries and get them to deal less damage to either himself or his team while tacking on a little damage to multiple heroes on the opposing team. It's another consistent ability that doesn't do all that much in isolation, but helps out with not only Arthas' but also his allies' kits. Frozen Waste is a strong talent due to the reduced cost as well as not needing to be on top of the targets all of the time to be affecting them, and Remorseless Winter gives him another hard crowd control effect that he can chain with Howling Blast alone. His first ult is Army of the Dead, which summons 6 ghouls for 15 seconds that can also be consumed to heal Arthas directly, the heal having a 2-second cooldown. It functions okay against particular compositions, but generally the opponents can clear them out pretty quick since they aren't very durable. The self-healing is also just okay and is less effective if Arthas can't constantly cast Sacrifice since they are duration-based and the cooldown can prevent getting all the possible healing after a long silence or stun. The Storm talent makes it a little better, but it doesn't solve the issue of being very weak to AoE damage that can clear them out quickly. His second ult is Summon Sindragosa, which, after a short delay, sends forth a dragon that shoots a wave that moderately damages and heavily slows heroes for 4 seconds and completely disables minions, mercs, monsters, and structures for 20 seconds. That's 20 as in 10 twice. Of course, Heroes of the Storm is more about heroes versus heroes, but on some maps and in some situations, it's super strong for sieging and shutting down sieges. It's pretty crazy to have abilities that affect structures at all, let alone shutting them down, let alone for a very long time. The Storm talent doubles the cast range and also roots heroes hit for a bit before the usual heavy slow. As a whole, he's super solid and not necessarily a specialist, but he is stronger against basic attackers, and he can stick in lanes for a long time even without healers. Not necessarily a split pusher, but he can do enough AoE to stop lanes from being pushed all the way in. He really doesn't have all that much busted stuff, and like Artanis, is reliant on being a stat stick twice so for being a juggernaut in a game with almost no macro play. Overall, very good at doing anything in particular, which is something to look for in a tank.